Welcome to the Social Impact Journal, the podcast where we talk to changemakers driving social impact around the world. I'm your host, Jack Farren, and this podcast is produced in collaboration with Rural Inclusion. In today's episode, I talk to John Chambamakasa, an agribusiness and value chain development specialist at the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations in Malawi. We discuss his career story and driving agribusiness in Malawi. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Social Impact Journal. And I'm delighted to be with John Chambamakasa today. John, how are you?
I'm super excellent, Jack. How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Very well.
Thank
For the
you.
audience, me and John met back in October of 2022 on my last trip to Malawi. And I'm really excited to be able to share John's story today. John, maybe you can give a brief introduction of yourself and your work before we get started.
Yes, I am John Chambamakasa, a Malawian by nationality, an agribusiness specialist, also a finance enthusiastic, if I may put it that way. I'm working currently with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Malawi, and we have a number of projects that we are also working in my domain. But my interest is the farmer-based organization and also cooperative and access to finance and access to market for the smallholder farmers who are the pre-thola in Malawi. There are a lot of them. So I have a master in agribusiness, and I've also a certified management accountant, and also a quasi, so that I may put an accountant, they say. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you, John. Our audience in the Social Impact Journal is spread across the world. And when I had the chance to travel to Malawi last year, it's one of my favorite countries that I have been to for a number of reasons. But some of our audience may not know a huge amount about Malawi. So maybe you can give me a brief introduction of the country and of the agricultural space in Malawi.
Well, Malawi is a country that is located in Southeast Africa. It's a landlocked country which is surrounded by three huge countries compared to ourselves. To the northeast, we have Tanzania, and to the southeast, we have southeastern part of the western part, we have Mozambique, and to the western part, we have Zambia. These are the three countries that surround Malawi. Malawi is predominantly an agriculture-based economy, and which is mainly dominated by about 75% of the farmers are smallholder farmers, with just 5% being commercial farmers. So we rely on agriculture, and we also rely on rain-fed agriculture. And this is who we are. The main crops that we grow, which is the staple food, is maize, and we have got other cash crops in terms of soybean, coffee, macadamia nut, and tea as well, and also tobacco. So that's just in the background. That's who we are in Malawi. And just to add on to that, it's a country of 19 million people, as per census of 3 years ago. I'm so sure the population has boomed. The country is divided into three regions. We have the northern region, the central region, and also the southern part. Lilongwe is the capital of Malawi. That's where I am at the moment. Thank you so much for the credit.
Thank you, John. And if I'm correct, the nickname for Malawi is also the warm heart of Africa.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's a beautiful thing. This is the warm heart of Africa. If you are to happen to visit Malawi, what I can guarantee you, you will find warm and beautiful people, ever smiling despite whatever we are going through, but we are ever smiling and everything is moving as usual.
I definitely can agree with that and attest to that from my experience.
I would love I would love all of you to visit Malawi.
Absolutely. Maybe we can have this podcast as a tourism information center for Malawi.
Oh yes, this could be a tourism center for Malawi as well.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant. So I know you've worked with international organizations such as the World Bank, such as Land O'Lakes, and now with the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. But I want to go back to where it all started. Understand what was your first job and what did you learn from that?
I will take you further back. We have an education system in Malawi called, we have the primary school, and then which runs from standard 1 up to standard 8. So you spend close to 8 years in primary school. And then we have the Form 4 system, which is Form 1 to Form 4. This is a secondary education. And when I wrote my secondary school exam, which is Malawi School in this Malawi School Certificate of Achievement, I did quite well, but not good, but I did quite well. We were writing what we call entrance exam to go into the public university. I remember to have come home. I told my dad specifically to say, I want to do agribusiness at Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Then he said, what's that? He couldn't understand what it's all about. His head was so wired that his first son should be an accountant. Then I was selected to go to Polytechnic, which is a constituent of the University of Malawi, where I did my bachelor's in applied accounting and information systems. From there, I worked in a number of organizations, mainly the private corporate entities. I worked for a national insurance company as a finance officer, briefly. Then I joined the IT-based company called Global Technologies as a finance company, as a finance accountant as well. Then I worked producing the normal accounting and general ledger transactions, but then I didn't really like it, honestly, because it was some kind of being confined to one place and it couldn't bring out the best in me. And then one thing happened. The World Bank was launching a project in Malawi called Irrigation and Rural Livelihood and Agriculture Development Project in Malawi. And they were looking for somebody with a background in finance and accounting to help the farmer-based organizations in terms of financial management, in terms of financial literacy, in terms of doing their books, in terms of every finance and accounting related work. And then I happened to apply and I got the job. And I was sent to 2 districts in central Malawi, Salima and Kasumu. And I was given about 14 farmer groups. So I spent close to 2 years there working with the farmer-based organizations, building their financial capacities, developing the financial administration manual, doing business plan, everything. When I did that, I kind of fell in love with what I was doing. Then that's where I began the transition into who I am at the moment. So I would meet people from Rwanda who were like, where did you do this? This we did at Agribusiness institution. Where did you do this? How did you become so adept and good at this? So that's what made me. By that time, I was still doing my same way. I was still writing exams towards qualifying as a certified management accountant. Then I decided to say, no, let me have papers which are sort of like making me to be who I am at the moment. Then I enrolled with Rome Business School in Rome, Italy, to do my master's in agribusiness management. And from there, I also joined another government-funded project called Smallholder Validation Project, which I worked there for 2 years. And then I joined another project which was funded by Scottish government, which was being implemented by Challenges Worldwide of Scotland. The project was called CROPS, Creating Robust Opportunities for Crop Production and Sale. That's the acronym called CROPS. Then I worked there. Then later on, I joined TechnoSave, which implemented a user-funded project called Refresh. Then Then I transitioned to join the UN FAO as an agribusiness foundation development specialist, responsible for every agribusiness related project in Malawi. So that's just a brief background of who I am. Thank you so much, Jack.
Thank you, John. And so, if I get this right, so you were trained and graduated in the field of accounting, and you're working with corporates. But when you saw the opportunity with the World Bank, you saw an opportunity for yourself to utilize those skills in finance and apply them in the agricultural sector.
Yes, we put it that way, Jack. You say it was like a transition for me where I was like finding myself. But that's why I took you a little bit backward to say the initial plan for my life was let me go and study agribusiness. But in Malawi and more especially in Africa, our elders and parents have got a much greater say to what we do. And then I found myself in finance and accounting school. So that's what happened. But when this opportunity, after so many years later, when this World Bank was implementing this project in Malawi, and by luck, I found myself into this doing accounting, but in a different kind of setup when I was working with farmers, where I was doing the agribusiness and the tech work. That's what really happened.
Amazing. No, I found a lot of similarities with my journey as well. I was graduated, worked in the insurance space. I think, as we discussed before, I worked in the insurance space, and then
you also went
a little bit differently. Space. How can you use those skills? And I think a lot of people that are in the financial inclusion space or financial literacy space have worked in corporates and actually realized that they can put their skills to good use with target groups or demographics that really can benefit from learning those skills. Maybe a question from when you were working with the World Bank and helping people manage their books and working with the farmer-based organizations. What was the one key challenge that you were witnessing in terms of their lack of financial understanding or awareness?
Most of the smallholder farmers in Malawi are semi-illiterate. Some have not gone far with their school. So to get the general grasp of the accounting and financial terms altogether was proved to be a challenge. And also to design the books in a correct format was also a challenge. I found them writing on a piece of paper. Most of their documents were not properly structured, and nobody could not follow through. There could not be any audit trail in terms of following the transaction, which had mainly led them to have wrong decision in terms of price, in terms of knowing the profit, in terms of recording revenues. It proved to be difficult. So with my background in finance, and I came there and designed low-buy, user-friendly books to help these smallholder farmers in farmer-based organization and tracking, and they could be able to track in terms of expenditure, in terms of how much they are putting, in terms of calculation of the gross margins, in terms of understanding the business itself. That proved to be a milestone for me. That's what I would call to say. This is an area which I went into, an area which people could not understand, and I brought my technical know-how and transformed their livelihood. This is what happened.
Thank you, John. So just to go deeper into that, so you are helping the farm-based organizations to understand their income, their expenditure, their profit and loss. How were you able to design tools that were easy to understand and simple for groups that I would imagine have low literacy levels and general understanding of financial tools?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made it quite simple in terms of to speak in English would have proved to be a challenge. Those financial terms and accounting terms, I'll put them into the vernacular, which is Chichewa, for them to understand. For example, when we're doing a cash book, the cash book will record what to the left side. I'll just take a simple book to say to the left side, record to the left side, record the outwards, the money that is coming out of the business. To the right side, we got the interest to say these are the money that is coming. By the end of the period, balance this to know where you are in terms of the cash basis. So I'll put it in I'll design a simple method of teaching, a simple method of coaching, but speaking their own language which they could understand. I simplify those terms into the local vernacular languages. And when I will take you to most of the farmer groups that have gone through my hand, see that they can explain everything to you. They know what cash flow is, but they won't tell you this is credit brought down, this is balance brought down. They will not speak to you like that, but they'll speak in the language that they'll be able to understand. The language was a barrier from English to Chichewa, but I made it into Chichewa for all the farmers to understand what it's all about.
Understood. And then now you have a role with the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. It would be good to hear of some of the projects that you're implementing around agribusiness for the FAO.
So the FAO Malawi is like a new talent so far in terms of designing programs in agribusiness. The priority for Malawi as a country was towards food systems, ensuring that food safety first. We've had chronic hungers in the past few years. So as a country, most of the program for most of the design projects that we've had at FAO were going towards food security, resilience toward climate change. That was an area. But now it's like the trajectory is changing towards agribusiness, towards commercialization, towards income-based project for the farmers, toward graduating them from subsistence farmers to a more commercial thinking. So the initial of the pilot project that was here was the market capacity building project, which was funded by the government of Flanders. And this project, it is a market-led project where the farmers who are now operating in what we are calling farmer field schools. So the farmer field schools they use a science methodical approach where they learn how about to farm, where they learn about entrepreneurship, where they learn about how to do business plan. So this is a group of maximum 30 people. So this is like a production entity. So what the market capacity building project did was bringing out this plethora of farmer field schools into what we call networking as a secondary corporate. So these farmer field schools would be able to produce and feed into this network. This network would be like a marketing entity arm where the aggregated produce will be put at one place and linked to a buyer, a more reliable buyer, in which all this produce could be sold. So currently, I'm the one coordinating that project at FAO Malawi. Then the other project which I'm also working is the Build Malawi Fund project. This is purely commercial access to finance for agribusiness SMEs. So when we say agribusiness SMEs, we mean those people who are agro dealers, those people who are doing trade, which is related to agri. They have they come to the Build Fund to access funds. This is not grant. This is equity finance or debt. Now, there are three agencies involved. There is the United Nations Global Development Fund, which is the UNCDF. This is an agency that is mandated for access to finance in UN. Then we have United Nations Development Program, which is UNDP. So UNCDF official sits in UNDP office because UNCDF currently doesn't have one office in Malawi. Then since the Build Fund is mostly dominated by the IPS, there was a need for a technical agency of UN. Now that's where we come in as a FAO to provide technical advice, to provide technical assistance to these SMEs before they access the funds. So that's just what we are doing at the moment. And another pipeline, we have got two other pipeline projects. We've got the Agribusiness Incubation Project, which we are putting up a proposal to the African Development Bank, the tune of $10 million. So this one, the incubation one, We'll be taking those SMEs that have received funds from build their capacity. So this will be intensive like training, mentorship and coaching at one place. And they graduate, who take their idea at ideation stage, test it, bring it out through all the stages until we feel that it's ready for market and can compete at the market before they are given funds. So like seed money for them to start. It could be those that have access funds that build. It could be other SMEs in agri that we can also be able to take them through the incubation phase. And another one, we have the pipeline project, which is a 40 million euro project called agriculture commercialization, which we are planning to roll out in September. And this one, we are also looking at the issues of market capacity building. We are also looking at the issue of access to finance with matching grant. We will be working with farmer-based organizations. So in a nutshell, I'm involved with 4 projects currently at FAO Malawi. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, John. It seems like you have a lot of work on your plate with those projects, and with all of those.
Definitely. We have a lot of projects at FAO Malawi.
Brilliant. And with all of those being active in the field and working with smallholder farmers, I guess you're traveling a lot from Lilongwe into rural areas and working with farmers directly in the field.
Yes, I travel a lot. In my travel, we go to the different, because most of these MCB project is in 2 districts. The Build Fund project cutters across every district in Malawi. And these other projects that I also support, I mainly travel to each and every district in Malawi, where there's agribusiness and value chain development activities taking place under FAO. So there are a lot of travels. So
Excellent. So you must have some interesting or unique stories or case studies of working with farmers in the field in Malawi, if you're able to share a few.
Jack, you would want to hear what some of the interesting stories we heard in farmers. One of the most interesting and funny things was a smallholder farmer in the northern part of Malawi had difficulties in terms of understanding the business aspect. We, under Market Capacity Building Project, we introduced what we call business model canvas. And the business model canvas is a new phenomenon, as you know. It's coming from business school, and it's being adopted mainly into the mainstream business side. So there are 9 segments at the BMC business model canvas. And this lady is about 79 years old. And we managed to train. I managed to conduct training and coaching in terms of how to develop the BMC for her business. And she did quite well, and she became adept at it. And there was a meeting that was coming. We had donors, we had the government officials coming to that area. And she put up this business model canvas at a piece of shell, at the blackboard. She designed all the 9 segments and put it there. It was so fun that you could see government top people could not understand the business model canvas. And this 79-year-old semi-illiterate woman would be able to articulate it fluently. And the people were turning to me and asked, how did you know this? I've read about BMC, but I couldn't know. And we laughed about it. And that lady really stood out at that meeting. So this is one of, I would call funny, but also a very motivating story that I have encountered in the field.
For sure. So the donors, government officials travelled to the field, and she was able to provide a demonstration of the business model compass.
She explained it well, that even some of the donors, that even some of the people could not really understand what it was all about. And most of even my colleagues were like, I've never heard of business model compass. I was like, this is a new phenomenon that is coming. It explains the business inside out well. And anybody could just go through the segment and understand to say, no, I can invest into this. So that lady took them all through the stages of the 9 segments, and we laughed about all the ways we're coming from the field. Even the donor people were like, hey, how did you manage to train her that way? Like, this is what we do.
Wow. She must have had a great teacher, John.
Oh, yeah, I am. I try. But it's a combination of English and also the vernacular, because most of them don't really speak English, but when you put it down into the vernacular language, they'll be able to understand. And at the moment, that lady's group, the cooperative, is the most performing project. It's producing good. They'll be able to understand the marketing trends. They also understand the value proposition. They also understand how to engage with the customer. And this is one of the beautiful things that we've had. It's the beautiful project.
That's great, John. That's a really interesting and amusing case study. So we're talking here about traveling within Malawi and traveling to the field, but outside of Malawi, what is your favorite place that you have had the opportunity to travel to in your career, and why?
Recently, I think a month and a half, 2 months ago, I was in Ireland. FOL Malawi, under the pipeline project called Agribusiness Incubation, was invited to Ireland to a study tour of Ireland to learn about the entrepreneurship dimension in that country, and also looking at the enterprise support organizations, how they are functioning in that country. And for me, this was the most eye-opener journey that I've traveled to. This was the most interesting place that I've visited to. I learned about how the Irish have developed their entrepreneurial dimension in terms of, but all in all, when we see this, there is government involved at the core of everything, in terms of the budgets, in terms of financial support, in terms of expertise support to these entrepreneurial support organizations. And there are many in there. So this was the most interesting thing for me, to see a government could support, and also the part of European Union designing this program, coming up with the agendas for these EU nations in terms of how they should operate in terms of entrepreneurship. That was something which and also the policy framework being implemented in that country is also top-notch. And coming here, I've also engaged trying to bring what I learned in Ireland, trying to go to Minister of Industry Trade, trying to learn to Minister of Agriculture. So this is the framework in which we can adopt. And under the project called Agribusiness Incubation, we have also issues to do with policy framework that has to do with the incubation landscape. Because at the moment in Malawi, we don't have a policy, we don't have a law that guides the incubation. So that side alone, I think it was amazing to visit Garowe. It was amazing to go to Limlig. I also visited organizations such as Chagas, Enterprise Island, Bodia, and the University of Garowe. What they are doing is top-notch. So for me, the most favorable country that I've also visited in terms of my workspace is Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. Thank you so much.
That's good to hear, John. I have some family in Ireland, so happy to hear that. And I imagine the weather was very different if you travelled last month in December. The weather must have been quite a shock as you stepped off the plane in Dublin. It's interesting to see the challenges and the landscape.
The weather was something else. Coming from Africa, where it was summer and hot, and coming out from the plane in Dublin airport, I had chilled to the bone. I was like, where am I now?
But I hope you stocked up on jumpers before you left Malawi.
I did know that I should buy jumpers. I came out in my shorts, and at the airport I was shivering and all those things. But it was good.
Brilliant. Of course, landscapes and challenges differ in agribusiness in Ireland to Malawi, but it's so interesting that you were able to pick some key findings and learnings in Ireland that you could take back to development partners and government in Malawi that actually could be implemented? So that's really interesting to hear. So looking forward to this year, 2023, do you have any key personal or professional goals?
Yeah, they're there. They continue. One of them is continue going the upward trajectory in terms of my career, in terms of being at the center of the programming agribusiness programs for Malawi. And also, I'm still pursuing my studies. I'm still doing my MBA with Cobalt University and Carl University North California. I do it online. I'm doing 2 double MBAs at the same time. And also looking at growing my individual consultancies, which I do sometimes. I'm also looking at networking to grow my networks of the people that I should work with. I'm trying to grow my network and build and learn from everyone that is involved. Those are some of the goals. Some of them, they're personal ones that I cannot share at this platform.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So,
thank you so much.
To wrap up, really, so you've had the opportunity to work with international organizations, to travel across the world, and to transition from the corporate finance space into agribusiness. If you were to have your own page of a social impact journal, what advice would you write down for a young individual who might be leaving university and planning to go into the social impact space or agriculture or international development? What piece of advice that you have learned on your journey can you share?
For me, I would say, listen to what your heart tells you. Mind you, as I had spoken earlier, when I wrote my high school exams, I really wanted to go into agribusiness. But I had a father who I looked up to. He said, no, I want to become an accountant. I went into the accounting and become really good at it by default. My heart was not with it. Initially, I really wanted to work with people. I really wanted to work into development space. I really wanted to see instant change in people's life. And that's what made me to go back to my original dream, which I'm living at the moment. So I'll speak to you young ones who are graduating at them to say, please, what your heart says, follow it because you do it with passion. It's not about money. I left good monies in my investment and finance work, but I'm doing it for the love of the job. So that one should be the primary guide to everything that you do. Thank you so much.
I think that brings us to a natural end of the episode. John, it's been a really pleasure to have you with us on the Social Impact Journal. I will share your social media handles in the show notes for those that might want to reach out to you or have any further questions. But for now, I wish you a great rest of the day and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. I wish you all the best for the listeners out there. Keep on dreaming and follow your dream, follow your heart. Thank you so much.